Thank you for joining us. Again, our bit.ly for this presentation is Doc Today Drama. We'd like to discuss the 11 commitments, and for this one in particular, because you're here for Document Today, we'd like to focus on the maintain personal balance and positive mental health. We're going to go through activities today with a theater focus that will help us actually deal with maintaining that personal balance and positive mental health. We want to review our mission statement. The mission statement of Moreno Valley Unified School District is to ensure that all students graduate high school prepared to successfully enter higher education and pursue a viable career path. We believe that these socio-emotional skills are definitely an aspect to that success. So we're framing our objectives as points of inquiry because we'd like you to consider these questions as we move through our presentation. Our first question is, what is social emotional learning? Our second is, what is the power of storytelling? So when we look at theater, we're looking at the power of storytelling. So we're going to go through activities that focus on the power of storytelling and how those tie into social emotional learning. And again, that third question is, what are some activities that can be adapted to my subject and grade level? If you could go ahead in the chat at this moment so we can have an idea of who our registered attendees are, if you could tell us what subject and grade level you are here and representing, and what school if you'd like as well, we'd appreciate that in the chat so we can help focus our presentation for you. Okay. So again, you're here to learn about Document Today, and it's a focus about artful healing. The phrase or the kind of words we're using to kind of get to the heart of artful healing is that we're looking to help students be vulnerable, be honest, and be you. Because we want to make that connection between the arts, our hearts, and the world, because we are going through unprecedented times. And so these activities that you are learning about, we want them actually to be recorded in a sense so that we remember and we can go back to these moments. So in order to kind of set the stage, we have here two different videos. One is specifically about our goal with Document Today, and the second, it'll make its own impact, but the second video is, I would say, our why.
The nation erupted into scenes of chaos
as a wildfire breaks out in the Sierra National.
Calls for police reform.
Schools can physically open for in-person education when the county.
Okay, as I mentioned, this second video is, again, as it says here in the subtitle, because our students are feeling this. And so this is our why. Okay, so we just saw 2 videos that showed both powerful messages. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about the power of storytelling in a sense. But before we move forward and kind of go through the technicalities of how about that, I would like you to take a moment. I'm going to ask a question, but I'm not going to ask you to answer immediately. So we're going to do what's called a waterfall chat, where in the sense that I'm going to ask a question, you're going to type a response in the chat, but you don't hit send until I ask you to do so, because that way it gives you a little processing time. So my question is, I would like you to express how both of these videos made you feel. So the idea is I want you to articulate, just type in the chat box, how these videos made you feel. And then when I say hit send, you can go ahead and hit send. So it's called a waterfall chat. The idea is you get some time to think and process, and then you hit send. So my question again is, how did both of these videos make you feel? And then I'm going to be quiet and let you type for a bit, and then I'll ask you to hit send. So I'll be quiet now. All right, if you could finish up your thoughts and you could hit send. There we go. Right. Thank you for sharing these thoughts. Okay. So we know that we started this presentation with some pretty heavy talk, and we wanted to put that out in the forefront. So that way, all of these emotions that you're feeling, we are going to spend some time on some positive things to help you with your students and help you with yourself even. So I'm seeing the anxiety, I'm seeing the sympathy, I'm seeing the overwhelmed. So thank you again for sharing that. So we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna talk about some techniques and some activities that we can use um, to support our students and ourselves. So, and this is where I move things over to Janine, and she's gonna talk to us about the power of storytelling and some activities that we can do with our students.
Hello, everybody. So the first thing that I would like to ask is that in the chat, everybody answer the question, where are you from? California, Marietta, Southern California, Columbia, California. Okay. So I'm going to tell you where I am from. I am from apple pies, fresh cut grass, and the smell of the ocean in the breeze. I am from the earth moving under the rockets launching with the background sound of alligators croaking and y'all used in all conversations. I am from a place where who you are is more important than what you do, where your story matters, where Friday Night Lights is big, but your story is what makes history. I am from small town America that shoots for the moon and surfs the sea, where no one is from there, but everyone lives there, where the mouse and all his friends sail to and from. I am from Cocoa, Florida. So that is, it's called the I am from storytelling. One of the essential questions that I kind of want everybody to think about is how can personal stories help students and educators make sense of the world? Because storytelling is essentially one of the first ways of communicating that we've ever used, okay, as human beings. And we use stories to make sense of our life, to make sense of our past, to learn about the past, you know, to come up with ideas for the future. So storytelling, what is storytelling? Storytelling is the social and cultural activity of sharing stories, often with improvisation, you know, just off the top of your head, theatricals and embellishments, okay? Everything, you know, it's not just, you know, a small alligator that we saw on the side of the road. It was, you know, 20 feet long and it was huge and it looked like a dinosaur that was coming to attack us. So just embellishing, just exaggerating. And our students love to have their stories told and heard. And when they know that they can embellish, you just see it, you know, in their faces. They love it. Stories are narratives, you know, that we tell all the time, okay? So why storytelling? So the reason why I said this is going from the dramatic point of view is that it is an ancient art form of storytelling. This is what we do in theater, is we tell stories. We don't just tell our stories, we tell other people's stories, you know, and you don't need any special equipment to do this, other than your imagination, okay, and the power to listen. And, you know, speaking is needed to create artistic imagination, but our students can even tell these stories without speaking. They can use pantomime and just different gestures, facial expressions. There are so many things that we can have our students do with storytelling in the dramatic world that we just need us. You know, unlike other things, we don't need, our instrument is our body. So we are the performer and the instrument. So, and it's a good learning tool because it really does encourage students to explore their unique expressionness and can heighten their ability to communicate through and show their feelings and how to articulate, and also how to show empathy instead of just sympathy, how to really be able to sit there and listen to somebody and just take that information in and just say, you know, I'm so sorry that this has happened, or I'm so glad to hear this. You know, I don't know what else to say, but I'm just really thankful you shared this with me. So, okay, we're gonna do an activity. So either, hopefully you have a piece of paper or a pen or something near you, and you'll write down really quick, just 6 words about yourself to describe. Okay, so you just write 6 words down about yourself. This is called the story generating activity, 6-word story about yourself. So just write down 6 words about yourself. And they're not complete sentences. That's what the students always ask. Does it have to be a complete sentence? No. Just 6 words. And then we're going to send you to a breakout room. You'll only be in the breakout room for about 2 minutes. When you're in there, what will happen is you are going to, somebody will go first. You guys can decide. And you will say your 6 words. And then can you, so while you're, so somebody says their 6 words. And as the person listening, so you just listen to their 6 words. And then you would respond back to the person after they said their 6 words with, oh, that made me think of this image or this sound or this color. You don't ask them any questions about their 6 words. You just tell them what their 6 words made you think of or made you see in your head, you know, whether it's a color or an image. So if they said, like, you know, blue and purple and ocean and, you know, alligator, you know, maybe you say, oh, that made me imagine the day I went to the beach, or that made me think of, you know, when my grandma fell down the stairs at the beach and we all laughed. I don't know, whatever, you know. So it's just very quick. Okay. Any questions before we go? Is everybody back?
We have a couple people still. We have one room still finishing up. 3, 2, and welcome back, everyone.
Okay, so I hope you kind of enjoyed that. With this activity, this is just a fun little activity kids can do to kind of get to know each other and to get to know themselves as well. Because when you put a restriction of like 6 words, they're like, I have to tell someone about me in just 6 words, like what? So either they're like, okay, I don't know 6 words that I could say about me because they think that they're not that interesting, or they're like, I have way too many words to say. So to get them to narrow it down, it gets them to also really focus too. And as well, when they go in the rooms or as a class and can only respond with what those words, you know, made them think, you know, like word, like see or sound, you know, hear or, you know, feel or anything like that, it forces them to listen to each other, because then they realize they're putting the attention on that person that said those 6 words, because they can't ask questions. Because when you ask a question, then you're changing the direction to focus on you. You know, when we want to focus on the person who said the 6 words, because it's their story, and their story is what matters at that very moment. But that every person will get a chance to tell their story. So next one. So these are the types and purpose for a story that you can have students. I mean, it's endless, the things we can have students do with storytelling. So you can do personal narratives, character stories where they're telling, you know, the point of view of a character, where they have to kind of like my intermediate or my beginning students have to tell a story from the point of view of a villain. You know, I mean, we don't know why villains are villains, but they don't think they're villains. So, I mean, you can do stuff like that. Memorial stories, you know, about somebody, you know, that they may have known, and kind of putting it into perspective, because that person's story matters too. Stories about what we do, you know, just in everyday life, recovery and discovery stories, love stories, you know, stories about events or places in our lives. You can do ones where they have to do historical events, where they, you know, have to actually research something or someone in history, and require students to be accountable for that and use information and other sources of media, you know. And there's different ways that you can story, you know, you can have them just do like the I am from, and they could do an I am from when it comes to from the character's point of view. I did an I am from when it came to my college experience too. I just did that one. And you know, just different things like that. Oh, sorry. Motivational, inspirational, because all stories matter. And once students know that you're interested in their story, then with social emotional learning, you're focusing on not just their self-awareness, because then they know, like, I'm important, you know, like someone wants to know about me and my story. And that's huge, because then that shows them that their story is just as important than anyone else's. And you just see like, wow, they're like, oh, someone wants that. So that's, you know, it's part of self-awareness and the social. Is it social awareness? Try to get the ball. Do another quick activity. This is always interesting. So look around just in your area that you are at. Okay. And then find an object, just any object that's sitting near you. It could be a pen, it could be anything. Okay. So you have that object in your hand somewhere. And then when we go into the breakout room, you are going to show people in your breakout room your object and just tell them what it is. Okay? And, you know, and anything you feel like you need to tell them. But keep it very simple. Like don't embellish it or anything like that. Just say, you know, this is whatever it is. And then everyone else will respond with a question. Okay? And then the person with the object, you can answer the question with this one, but you don't have to answer it. Because it might be a question nobody knows. It's just a question for a question. This is always interesting because we're going to see what people have around them.
Welcome back. We have a few more people who are still in their first breakout room. They're still in that group. But welcome back. All right, everyone, welcome back.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. You learned a little bit about like what somebody might have randomly around and might want to, you know, learn more and like, oh, I really like that. Or I know the other day, like we all started wondering because somebody had held up a mouse. I was like, who decided that that would be named a mouse? Like it doesn't look like a mouse. Like why is a mouse named a mouse? And so then of course we all want to like go look it up. Like why? You know, so it kind of gets the students really thinking and questioning, and then they'll start researching on their own. And of course, we always like to hear that they're like, oh, well, I wanted to know this, so I went and found out. Like I'm not waiting for someone to tell me, I just want to know. So I always tell them like, look, you know, we're all going to get older one day. And if we're full of useless knowledge, at least we're good conversationalists, you know? I'm like, my husband's full of useless knowledge. So we have great conversations. So I'm like, come on, you guys. I was like, you never know. You could end up on Jeopardy. So one of my favorite quotes, I had just found this recently. I've talked to a lot of some other professors and stuff that when we had to pivot, you know, that's because it's our new word, to more online performing and stuff, is how important stories really are now, you know, and how important it is for everybody to tell their story and to listen to other people's stories. So this quote, I just totally love. Hidden power of story. So science is by its own definition, doesn't give us meaning. It just proves us with facts. It provides us with facts, sorry. So we know that for sure. But our lives gain meaning only when we tell our story. So, and that's just so profound to really think about that, the fact, and it's not to say any subject or anything like that is more important than another. It's to say that everything is important. All stories, all subjects, everything has to work together to you know, be a well-rounded person. You know, you have to be able to understand what the facts are, but then to be able to, you know, gain meaning and understanding, we do that by telling our story. So there is a lot of different ways to get students to tell their stories. And, but just getting them to tell their stories is the biggest thing I hope you walk away from this with, is just doing little things to help them tell their story, to get those emotions out, so that they really start becoming aware of their community and their environment and their own feelings and who they are as a person and the fact that they are important and their story matters. So there is a thing called digital storytelling. So we do have access in Moreno Valley with WeVideo. So I know a lot of my students are using WeVideo. We're starting to get into that realm. So this is from a professor. She does a whole class on digital storytelling. She works at James Madison University. She is more than willing to talk to you if you have any more questions. She has great ideas for digital storytelling. I'm getting ideas from her and from other professors at James Madison. I did not go there, so I'm just putting that out there. But this is a great thing, and you're more than welcome to use it, she said. So this is kind of a I am from.
I am from a mixed background, but I don't look like it. How do I identify? I'll tell you where I'm from, but only if you ask me first. It's not an identity marker I wear on my sleeve, and that's because I look too white. I am from a mother born in Ethiopia who came to this country at 1 year old, and from a European father whom my skin takes after. I am from big family, from many honorary grandchildren and countless relatives I do not know. I am from Bear on every dish and Zigany for every gathering. I am from gobi wraps and coffee ceremonies that make the whole house smell like old roast.
I am from scoldings if I don't get up to join the Uskista, and from encouraging smiles as I try my hardest to move my body like my skilled aunts can.
I am from powerful black women who will give you every piece of their heart, and from men who will father refugees unknown to them. I am from a white grandfather who was exiled from his family for marrying a black girl in the 60s. I am from a black woman who gave up everything to come to a foreign country with her children. I am from the gauzy white dresses and golden crosses that are worn proudly to church. I am from pounding imbasha bread with my hands on linoleum floors. I am from praises in English and curses in Tigray. I am from jewelry that garners strange looks, many questions, and the occasional accusation of cultural appropriation. I am from being called mulatto in 4th grade when we first learned the meaning of the word. I am from a lifelong question of am I black, when I will always decide that the answer is not quite enough. I am from a life of privilege because of my light skin, when so many of my relatives are born into discrimination. I am from a family who could easily dismiss and exclude me from their culture because of my privilege. I do not know how I identify, but I do know where I come from, and that is from people who do not resent my skin color, but love me as their own.
So that is, one of the ways we could, collect their stories. And, but there are many different ways. Because like I said, all you really need is just yourself to tell a story. And they just need to understand that their story matters. So we have some ideas, some other things for you.
So this is a kind of a visual note-taking kind of process. The idea is we captured a lot of the thoughts we had today in the presentation about the power of storytelling in this visual note. Come back and reference it if you'd like, but again, it's a one way of kind of capturing a lot of what we talked about today, very particularly the idea about giving students voice. And so again, that is the power of storytelling, is the idea is that you are heard. But this is a reference page for you to come back and look at more resources. Again, various examples. We also have created a Wakelet, which is a way of gathering information. So there are various resources here for you to consider. Happy little puppy here. but we have all these resources here. A lot of the research and a lot of the examples and a lot of our why is in here if you'd like to do that. But we're going to actually move in to talking about some of the activities we went through and how they connect to some of that social emotional research that goes along with that. So this first one we're going to talk about is self-awareness. And again, when you're telling a story of yourself and when you're putting yourself out there and you're being vulnerable and you're being honest and you're putting the you in there, it really allows for the students to closely examine their own emotions. Again, when you're making the decisions about what you want to put out there, that's a self-reflection. Like, what about me do I want to share? And this analysis is very much connected to this competency about self-awareness.
And then one of the things that's really important with social emotional learning is the concept of self-management, where you regulate your own emotions and your own behavior. So that's the managing stress, that's delaying gratification, all of that. And so when we look at storytelling and we look at like the concepts of practice and rehearsal, that affects or shows that they can demonstrate, I've set a goal and now I'm going to practice towards it. So again, that delaying of gratification. And it provides an emotional outlet, which once you let out those emotions, that definitely helps in your self-regulation.
And then self-aware or social awareness. So understanding and empathizing and feeling compassion for those that are different, have different backgrounds and cultures, and just understanding social norms within the community they are in and then the communities that they aren't in. So performances, you know, allow for that understanding and the ability for them to really listen and then understand and comprehend someone else's story. And the nature of the script can influence, you know, this a lot, and the awareness and impact on an audience. You know, nothing can ever change the fact of being in a dark room with a bunch of strangers watching someone's story being told, you know, and just taking that in and understanding it.
The next area we're going to talk about is relationship skills. Definitely when you're working with someone else, when you have a partner, you're working together on putting together performance, where your relationship skills come across there. But also just the idea that you know that when you are practicing, when you're rehearsing, when you're looking for feedback, that's important when you get to this relationship skill, because you're getting that back and forth. But again, as we also mentioned about the role of being able to actively listen and cooperate with someone else when you're kind of brainstorming, that's important too. And those are some of the skills that we hope our activities have shown. The idea that you listen actively, you cooperate, and you hear one another, and you take feedback too.
And then the final one is responsible decision making, which is definitely one of the goals of social emotional learning. If you've been to any of these other trainings, you know that that's something we're trying to get across to all of our students. And so when you're thinking about the choices of your personal behavior, walking through your storytelling can definitely help you make decisions. Because you are walking through your story, you're looking back at your story, or you're listening to somebody else's story, and that helps you because you get that input to have the good decision making. Of course, it's dependent upon the topic and the themes of the performance, but it definitely encourages that particular skill. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to review very quickly the whole concept of social emotional learning and why this has become, why Document Today and why social emotional learning has become so important to us as educators. So again, those are the 5 areas: the self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making that we want to have come out of social emotional learning. So it's the process through which children, the adults in their lives, all of that, understand and manage their emotions, can set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others. Janine mentioned that, not just sympathy, but empathy. Establish and maintain positive relationships and make those responsible decisions. So there is a link in this that shows you a little bit more in our Wakelet that has a little bit more explanation on SEL, but I also know that if you're here, we're kind of preaching to the choir because you guys are already interested in it. So in that video, though, I do put in some warning signs, some things that you might want to look out for if you are opening this door to more emotional learning, and suggestions about how you can connect with the counselors on your campus if you need to do a referral. So the whole purpose is the idea of Maslow before Bloom, and a lot of people have really kind of taken this concept and run, because what they're looking at is, when you're looking at Maslow, you're looking at the needs. And you're going all the way from the physiological, safety, love and belonging, and then up into esteem and self-actualization. But when students are at that physiological, that safety, even that love and belonging level of Maslow, it's very difficult for them to move into the Bloom's taxonomy, which is where you want them to be able to now analyze, think, let's problem solve, let's evaluate this. What does this mean, and how does it fit into my life? And so by addressing the social emotional needs at those lower levels of Maslow, you allow students to get into the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy that allows them to learn and to grow and to experience. So when we think about our students in Moreno Valley, what we have is a tremendous number of students who are in foster care or who have been in foster care. We have a large number of students who are either homeless, doubled up, multiple families living in one dwelling. We have low socioeconomic status with our students. And so then you take those things that are normally stressors for our kids and you multiply that. So you have what we call compound trauma, and you put in the pandemic and the impact that that's having on so many of our families in so many different ways, and our teachers and our adults, and the social injustices that our students are witnessing. And it all leads everybody into that feeling of anxiety, loss, and isolation. And that's where we want to help the students move through that, because when they're there, they're not learning. So we want to help them move through that and to the place where they can learn. And so basic research shows that SEL itself, so really focusing on social emotional learning, can have a huge impact on the growth for students. And so you see here in this chart, it talks about like the improvement in pro-social behavior. It talks about the reduction in behavior problems. It even talks about the increase in social emotional skills as well as standardized achievement. So we're talking grades and academics. And so SEL has been proven to have a really positive impact on students.
So now we're going to wrap this all together, everything that we've talked about today, and how Document Today is not just about moments, but about a movement. So we've talked about how Document Today is meant to encourage artful healing, again, for student success. We talked about how we want to share these experiences. And so this is the area we're going to close up with. We're going to talk about how do we get this all together and how do we put it into a Document Today process. And again, the reason why we need to do this, because it is that story. We want to capture the story of this time so we can reflect upon it and so we can have a better understanding of it. We want to make sure that we're capturing these moments to be authentic. We want to make sure that we can include as many people as possible so that we have an accurate understanding of what happened. And so this is the historical side of it, the idea of capturing what our world was like, even though right now we're just trying to process that. What is our world like? And so these artful moments that were these social emotional moments, we are trying to capture those in a way that we have a history of it. And so what we have is a bit.ly for you to submit your students' work. It does have a privacy matter, so you're going to need some parental involvement in that. But the idea is that we are going to actually put these into an archive in our Destiny library system. And so your students, should they choose to submit any of the art, the theater making, any of the music, the dance, whatever they would choose to submit to kind of capture the way the world is right now and how they're feeling about it, would make them a published author. And so you can have that record and we can have that there. So again, that bit.ly is MVUSD and then lowercase archive to make sure we can submit that information. If you need this full presentation, it's the bit.ly for Doc Today drama in the lower corner. But if you're looking for some digital ways of telling storytelling, we have these tools here, and you can always reach out to your beauty specialist. Janine did mention WeVideo. It's a great way of editing, but we always have Screencastify. And we can also record that way. And I think I want to make sure you also know this, although we're here talking about theater making and drama, we want to make sure that you know that Document Today also has an aspect to it with the visual arts, and that at the beginning of November, art kits will be coming to all students at the school site. So we want to make sure that we can provide the tools for your students to express, but we just also want to remind you that theater is the expression through self, and so we can do all this storytelling just with our own bodies, as you mentioned earlier. But we are kind of in the point of our closing. We have about 5 minutes, so we can have some questions if you'd like. And again, I'm Catherine Bain, Frances Rose with us today, and Janine Perez were your presenters. But I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. That way we can maybe just have some questions.